Hi, you too. How are you?
Let me ask. Everybody up here.
Anybody that's helping the community around DV issues, we'd love to have you on the stage. So the community sees all the support we have. Includes you, Faith.
Quite a crowd here for the mayor's domestic violence presser. Domestic violence, as we all know, is a scourge on our community, and it absolutely must be stopped. A lot of these people work against domestic violence, and good morning, Grandmaster. We're here in the mayor's gallery. This is law enforcement. Here are judges.
All right.
Center for
Good
Women and
afternoon,
Families,
everybody.
etc.
Thank you all for being with us here today.
Here's the mayor.
First, I want to share a little encouraging news. We're seeing positive trends from our whole of government approach to public safety, and those include shootings year to date are down 40%. Carjackings are down 24%. Our homicides are about level to where they were last year in 2021, which is still too high. So if you're saying, well, wait a minute, how can shootings be down 40%, but homicides are about level? Well, this is what this is all about here today, what we're going to explain, and to shout loudly and clearly to the community that we are experiencing a sharp and tragic increase of domestic violence homicides. That's the topic of today's conversation. According to LMPD, their data shows that this time in 2020, Louisville had 2 domestic violence homicides, and there were 9 domestic violence homicides for the entire year of 2020. At this time in 2021, we had 5 domestic violence homicides, and there were a total of 10 domestic homicides for the year. But today, we're not even 5 months through the year, we've had 12 domestic violence homicides so far this year. So that obviously is 12 unspeakable tragedies in and of themselves. And it also explains how you can have shootings down, but homicides are about flat. There's a racial issue associated with this as well. Nationally, it's the same. Where Black women are more likely to be victims of domestic violence. Of our 12 in Louisville year to date, 7 of the victims were Black. And we know that these challenges exact a particularly heavy toll on Black women. So we're going to talk about this, and we're going to issue a couple calls to action here for the community. This is not a family issue. And by that, I mean something you just keep in the family. These are our problems. We don't need to involve anybody else. And it's not just something for the police either. This is a community-wide problem, and addressing it needs to be a community priority. Now, too many people throughout the world, including on our own streets and in our own neighborhoods, perhaps in our own homes, are living with this violence and its tragic impact. So I want to start by sharing 3 strong messages today for people experiencing domestic violence right now. You might be home listening to this. The 3 messages are: you are not alone, help is available, and there is no judgment or shame in letting us know that help is needed. So please reach out for help. We're here for you. And if you know someone in your life who may be in danger, let them know there's help available. I'm going to say these things again because I really want you to hear me. You're not alone. Help's available. There's no judgment, no shame. Please reach out for help. We're here for you. Now, everybody can play a part to let survivors know there is help available, to hold perpetrators accountable, and to prevent violence from happening in our workplace, our homes, and our community. During the COVID-19 pandemic, domestic violence has been on the rise to such an extent that it has been called the shadow pandemic. One analysis from the National Commission on COVID-19 and Criminal Justice shows that domestic violence incidents in the U.S. increased by 8.1% following the imposition of lockdowns during the 2020 pandemic. In Louisville, we've seen a critical rise in domestic violence reports from 5,267 in 2019 to 7,317 in 2021. I want you to think about those numbers. Almost 7,400 domestic violence reports in our city last year. So if you're thinking, well, this doesn't impact me, it impacts somebody that you know, or it impacts somebody that your kids know at school. It could have an impact on you. So this is a community-wide issue that I'm asking everybody, please be more alert than ever before to domestic violence and its tragic impact. Now, we don't know the precise reasons for the increase. It's not entirely clear. We know that the lockdowns and pandemic-related economic impacts added to the factors: unemployment, financial insecurity, lack of child care, substance abuse. Those are typically associated with domestic violence. And we know that for too many, home is where the hurt is. And secrets like domestic violence can be deadly. We all like to think of our homes as sanctuaries where we can go and relax, rest, recharge. For some people, they tremble when they go in the front door. Now, for us here in Metro government, our ultimate goal is to have no incidents of domestic violence in our city. But in the meantime, we are working to help victims get through the trauma experience with domestic violence. Earlier this year, I signed into law an ordinance that provides a week of paid leave per year to employees who are the victims of domestic violence or other crimes. So it's time that they can seek care or legal action or other services. It's the right thing to do, certainly for Metro government and for you as well. So I urge other employers to follow our lead and safeguard victims in the workplace. Louisville Metro Police responds to crimes of domestic violence, assessing for risk, and then partnering with the Center for Women and Families. Our LMPD Victim Services Unit is dedicated to supporting crime victims and witnesses by helping them navigate the criminal justice system and providing immediate resource needs, whether they be emotional, physical, financial. The Domestic Violence Unit was recently strengthened with the addition of 2 experienced civilians who are former sworn domestic violence investigators. And just this year, LMPD has made 613 domestic violence related arrests. Our Office for Women, led by Gretchen Hunt, is bringing in national experts to train prosecutors, law enforcement, victim and community advocates on how to effectively investigate and prosecute stalking, since stalking is a major risk factor for domestic violence. The Domestic Violence Prevention and Coordinating Council, many of whom are with us here today, convened to work on best practices in responding to domestic violence, including reviewing domestic violence fatalities to make changes to our interventions. Our Office of Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods, led by Dr. Monique Williams, who's with us today, conducts ambassador trainings to prevent community and gender-based violence, is in the process of expanding its Trauma Resilient Communities initiative to place clinicians in 6 neighborhood places for people who seek help, including with domestic violence. They'll also be offering racial trauma therapy and training in adverse childhood experiences, as they also pertain to treating those who have witnessed. Eight 844-237-2331. The center provides crisis response, emergency shelter, sexual assault service, and so much more. We are very, very fortunate to have the Center for Women and Families in our community. Second number, 211, the Metro United Way Community Resource Database. If you need housing or to get away from your situation, if you need transportation, if you need legal advice, call 211 and they can help and put you in touch with those resources. So two numbers, 1-844-237-2331 and 211. Now, I'd like to let you know who's in the room with us today, and I thank them for their work and support. Members of our Domestic Violence Prevention Coordinating Council and Fatality Review Committee, domestic violence prosecutors from the County Attorney's Office, Jefferson County Circuit Clerk Office, the Sheriff's Office, Legal Aid, the Office for Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods, Director Monique Williams, Assistant Director Amber Jones, Nanette Dix, who leads our trauma resilient community work, and Joe Newland, Ambassador Program Manager. Our Office of Equity, run by Michael Meeks, our Office for Women, led by Gretchen Hunt, and our Louisville Metro Police Department, and many, many other community heroes, some of whom will be speaking with us here today. Now I'd like to invite a few people to speak who will share more information with you. And so first, let's hear from LMPD, who will walk us through what takes place on a domestic violence call. Detective Larry Farmer is going to share that with us. Detective.
My name is Larry Farmer. I'm a detective with the Louisville Metro Police Department Domestic Violence Unit. Just to kind of go through how a domestic violence call is handled. Initially, Metro Safe, if they receive a call, a 911 call for a domestic violence incident, patrol officers will be dispatched at that time and head to the scene. And once they arrive on scene, they'll begin a preliminary investigation, including gathering names, witnesses, evidence, anything like that. At that point, if there is an arrest that needs to be made immediately on scene, then patrol officers will go ahead and make an arrest at that time. Some of the cases, if they're determined to be a felony case that may need a domestic violence detective to be contacted, we are on call 24 hours, 7 days a week. We have someone on call. One of our detectives will take that call, and if needed, we'll respond to the scene, and then we will take up that investigation at that point. Any other cases that are not, where there's not an arrest made on scene or a detective is not called out, those are reported on our JC3 reports, and they all are then forwarded to our office where our sergeants go through them, and then they will distribute them evenly among the 8 detectives in our office, and we will then take up those cases at that time, which means basically making phone calls, watching body camera, gathering evidence, those types of things. And then at that point, if we have enough to take a warrant, we will go down to the Domestic Violence Intake Center. We will sit with the prosecutors down there, discuss the cases, discuss the charges. At that point, if a warrant is needed, we will write the warrants up, and of course, then they'll be sent off, and they will go into our e-warrant system at that point. And during all of this, our Victim Services Unit is also available for us, and as well as our patrol officers. They also have on-call, so they're needed to respond to a scene. If we need them to come to the hospital or wherever they need to come, we work very closely with them. They're in our same office, so we have a great working relationship with them and the detectives. We all know each other, so if they are needed, we will call them. And then also some of those felony cases that we are working as detectives, they get assigned within their unit as well for another follow-up from a victim service specialist who kind of goes along that case with the detective and works it together. So on scene, officers on patrol, when they get there, they are advised if there's a domestic situation between intimate partners, they will have the victim go through what is called a lethality assessment screen, and basically it's a set of questions that they will ask, and based on the answers of the victims, sometimes that will initiate a call to the Center for Women and Families counselor at any hour of the night or day, whenever, and then they will call the center, and they will ask if the victim wants to speak at that time directly to a counselor with this center, and maybe they need some services going forward at that point. And then even if they don't screen in and they still want to talk to someone, they're always allowed. They'll make a call for them and kind of go from there. And if they do need services, then they're talking directly to someone who can help them.
Thank you, Detective. He mentioned our Victim Services Unit as part of LMPD as well. So Nicole Carroll and her team at Victim Services do an extraordinary job for us, and now Nicole is going to explain that process. Nicole Carroll.
A little bit shorter. Good afternoon, and thank you for being here. My name is Nicole Carroll. I'm the director of the Victim Services Unit for the Louisville Metro Police Department. Our unit is staffed with 13 victim services professionals to include a therapy dog. And we are in the process of hiring 2 additional victim services specialists to serve the community. This year alone, we've worked with over 500 victims of domestic violence, and we have provided over 2,800 support and advocacy services to those same persons impacted by domestic violence. It's important for the community to know that there are resources within the LMPD to help support victims of crime through the investigation. The unit provides crisis intervention and support, relocation assistance, safety planning, information on rights and services, explanation of the protective order process and the criminal court process. We also accompany individuals to court for both civil and criminal proceedings, resources and referrals. When we are unable to meet the unique needs experienced by that individual, we will partner with community agencies to meet their needs. Investigative updates, as Detective Farmer indicated, we work alongside detectives in the domestic violence unit to provide information to victims of crime so that they're kept apprised and so that they can ensure their own safety. And we work alongside of them to make sure that they are informed and safe. Advanced notification of release, assistance with filing victim compensation claims, coordination of interpreter and translation services. We'll intervene with employers or academic institutions, creditors, landlords, service providers. Sometimes when an incident occurs, your world around you stops, but everything else keeps going. And so we'll work alongside of that person to ensure that all the necessary people in their life know that they're unable to move forward at that time. And so we'll help make those phone calls. And then we have therapy dog services. When you're ready, we're here to support you. Please call the Victim Services Unit. We can be reached at 574-8788. Thank you to Mayor Fisher and all of our partners for bringing awareness to domestic violence in our community.
Thank you, Nicole. You've been hearing a lot about the Center for Women and Families. If you've been in Louisville long, you know that they're a valued community treasure, and their CEO, Elizabeth Wessels Martin, is now going to give us more data on the center. Elizabeth?
Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here and bringing attention to this very, very significant issue. As the mayor said, I'm the CEO at the Center for Women and Families, and we are the Jefferson County service provider for victims and families who have experienced domestic violence and or sexual assault. We serve this, not only Jefferson County, but the 6 surrounding counties and 2 in southern Indiana. 1 in every 3 women, 1 in every 3 women, and 1 in every 4 men in Kentucky experiences some form of domestic violence in their lifetime. Domestic violence often begins with emotional, verbal, and psychological abuse, and then it can escalate to physical abuse and possibly death. But remember, it doesn't always. So domestic violence isn't just a slap or a hit. It starts way before that. Domestic violence is all about power and control that the perpetrator insists on having over the victim. Domestic violence, as the mayor said, it is not a family problem. It is not a personal problem. This is a community problem, and we have to respond as a community. It is at the core of so much of the violence that we're seeing in our community and other communities across the country. The Center for Women and Families serves anyone and everyone, and I want to emphasize that. We don't ask immigration status. We don't ask criminal status. We don't care who you are, what you look like, how you identify. We will serve you if you are a victim of domestic, intimate partner, or sexual violence. We are open 24/7, 365 days a year. We have never closed, and we never will. We were open every single minute throughout the pandemic, and we will continue that. We have staff in the Crisis Response Center. That is our front line, who answer calls 24/7 for those who are in crisis and those who may need more information, and hopefully those who want to support family member, friend, or coworker, and need to know a little bit more of how to have that conversation. We will walk you through that. I get a lot of questions about emergency protective orders. We do strongly recommend that victims file for an EPO when their life is in danger. An EPO creates that legal paper trail that's necessary, and it does give LMPD the authority to arrest a perpetrator when they have violated the EPO. However, an EPO may not be enough. There is safety planning that must, and I emphasize must, take place. Because oftentimes what we find is that victims aren't aware of some of the details that the perpetrator is aware of. Perpetrators track victims on their phones. They know everywhere they go. They know their way to work. They know their way to the gym. They know what time they get up. They know what time they leave the house. They know every detail. And when you call the center, our staff are specifically trained in the details of safety planning. And we will talk you through that. We will ask a lot of questions to understand, but we will help you create a safety plan. And that may change. Sometimes we talk to the same victim 4 or 5 times within a day. Last year alone, we took 7,581 calls. And many of those were victims that called multiple times. I urge anyone who is experiencing a form of domestic violence or sexual violence to please reach out to the center. As the mayor said, it's 1-844-237-2331 or 502-581-7222. We can also be reached. You can message us on our webpage at thecenteronline.org or on our Facebook or our Instagram page. I also urge family members, friends, and coworkers, if you are aware of anyone who is experiencing any form of domestic violence, now that the world is open and we're back having parties and social gatherings and family gatherings, if you see something, say something. If you're not sure what to say, call the center. We'll give you the words. We'll give you the information. We'll give you some what we call our shoe cards to just simply slip to somebody. If you know anybody, please call. And I also want to add something that Detective Farmer said. The other piece is if when LMPD does do a run, if the victim at that time does not want to connect with the center, if the victim will give LMPD their phone number, we do follow-up calls. We will make sure that that call is safe and that that perpetrator cannot track your call. It won't come up the Center for Women and Families on your cell phone. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth, once again for you and all the many years of work of the center and all the people that have led our community. Thank you. Now we're going to be hearing from Karina Barillas. She's Executive Director of La Casita Center. One of the beautiful things that's occurred in our city over the last couple of decades is the growth of our foreign-born population. And Karina has been right in the middle of all that, helping that growth in our city. For that, we are deeply appreciative. Karina Barillas.
Muy buenas tardes. Good afternoon. My name is Karina Varillas, and besides being a very proud Latina Louisvillian, I am the Executive Director for La Casita Center. La Casita Center is a Latinx-led, feminist-led organization unique in the state of Kentucky. And we were born out of the heart of the Center for Women and Families when back in the day, 22 years ago, I was the very first Latina in the city accompanying Latina women facing domestic violence, sexual assault, and trafficking. It is very important that all of us understand that domestic violence doesn't care where you are from, what language you speak, the color of your skin, your economic status. Domestic violence is there. And as a community, it's very important that all of us recognize that every single person that lives in our city has the right to live free from violence. Culture is not an excuse that we don't provide services in languages that we have in our community is not an excuse. It is our responsibility because we care, because every single child, every single family, every single person that lives in the city belongs to the city. So with that, I would like always to encourage our beloved community to continue providing not only services, but meaningful access to services that are culturally relevant for the families, for the community, regardless of who they are. We are one Louisville. And with that, allow me just to send a message in Spanish. Usted, querido amigo, querida amiga, querida amiguex, si usted está pasando una situación de violencia, usted tiene el derecho de vivir libre de violencia. Hay servicios las 24 horas del día en el Centro para Mujeres y Familias, pero también en la casita le podemos atender en español y también en lenguas indígenas. Ahí estaremos apoyándole en el 502-322-4036. And what I will share with our Spanish-speaking community is that La Casita provides services not only in Spanish, but also in indigenous languages. And we are also partnering with the Center for Women and Families. We wish we could be open 24/7, but with the strong partnership with the center, we are able to accompany families that are being victimized. So I just want to finish my little comment saying that you, each one of you, and me, as a collective, can make that this community thrive. How do we do that? By caring of each other. That is absolutely very important because if one person thrives, the whole community thrives. Somos un círculo, we are a circle.
Muchísimas gracias por su corazón. Now we'd like to introduce J.D. Graham. J.D. is a social worker, author, and domestic violence survivor. J.D.
Hi, my name is J.D. Graham. I'm the Assistant Program Director at Family Scholar House, the published author of My Truth, The Soul Grind, and most importantly, I'm a domestic violence survivor. I am so incredibly honored that I get to be here today because around 10 and a half years ago, I was in this same area of town obtaining a domestic violence order. And so today, to be able to use my voice is such an incredibly powerful and beautiful thing. So many people today have come and they've told you so much about resources. So I'm really pumped I get to do something else. I want to talk to the survivors for just a second. The ones that are possibly behind me, the ones that are possibly in front of me, and the ones that are watching this on the screen. And I'm going to tell you something. You are worthy of fighting for light amidst these trenches. If you are walking around and you feel like you're walking on eggshells, if you feel like you are physically, spiritually, emotionally, sexually being abused, I want to tell you this. You are worthy of fighting for the light in this darkness. I believe you. There's tons of people in this room that believe you too. And one thing I know for certain, there's a lot of resources talked about today. There's a lot of things discussed. And I know also one thing, you probably won't go get them until you believe you are worthy of them. So I'm telling you right now, you are worthy of fighting for your peace and for your healing to begin today. If you are struggling, if you are doubting, if you are fighting every single day to even get up, to rise up, to work, to take care of your children, to show up and put a smile on your face when you go home and you feel like you're about this tall, then I want you to do something real quick. I want you to look at the notepad on your phone, or I want you to get out a little napkin that's beside you, or maybe you're tuning in some other way. I want you to put some letters on a sheet of paper because we know how hard it is to make phone calls. We know how hard it is to recall things when you're in the midst of trauma. We know how hard it is to figure out of so many resources which one's the one for you, right? So I want just for a second for you to put FSH somewhere. This stands for Family Scholar House. But when you do have a second, when you do have a moment of time, when you are able to slip away for a second, that's going to help recall your memory so you know who to call. We have an amazing team that has been serving through the pandemic, but also right now. And guess what? One thing that we do and that our team does so beautifully is provide space, provide time, we listen, and we're going to meet you exactly where you're at. Another one that I also use when obtaining my domestic violence order, I want you to put on a sheet of paper, LAS. So when you have, once again, a quiet moment, when you sneak to the bathroom, you get to take a quick drive, I want you to remember Legal Aid Society, okay? And then that's going to be a much quicker turnaround for you to look that up and to find the number and to give them a call. Are you scared that they're going to call you back? This is what I want you to do. I want you to leave a voicemail. I want you to say a little bit about your situation, who you are, what your contact number is, and I want you to tell them it is not safe for you to leave a message and say who you are. These are things that I did not know when I was obtaining my domestic violence order. I was lost in a lot of darkness and I was very confused. I was raised in a home of domestic violence and an addiction. I didn't know what healthy was. I didn't know what unhealthy was. So when people started looking at me and saying, this is unhealthy, you deserve to fight for your life, you deserve for peace, you deserve for healing, you deserve a relationship that doesn't hurt in any shape or form. And in that, I was be able to tap into my worthiness, tap into what I felt I was worthy of and begin to fight for my life. But I did not do that alone. There are so many resources out here for you. There are so many people that will believe you. There are so many people that will say, I see you in a phase of your life where you have felt completely invisible. So today, your healing can begin. And you might not be able to step away right now. It might not be safe. So what I want you to do is begin healing in here. Love and grace constantly and consistently. This room is full of powerful women that have also helped me use my voice. I'm incredibly thankful. But I want you to know that this journey is one that you're going to have to trudge. But guess what? There are so many people ready to light that trench right up. I see you. I believe you. There are resources for you, and I want you today to start honoring how you feel about what's going on in your life right now. I'm sending you love. You will make it through this. You have people that are going to be in this with you. And I hope if anything today that you remember from J.D. Graham that stood up here is that you are worthy of fighting for your life. Thanks.
Thank you, JD. Thank you for sharing your story. This is what leadership looks like right here. Thank you. So the purpose of this press conference, to repeat, is to put out an emergency call around the rise in domestic violence in our city and ask everyone to bring it to an end. My hope is this will intensify a community-wide conversation about domestic violence and what all of us in government, at jobs, and social settings can do to help the people who need our help the most. Please ask yourself, what can you do and what will you do? Let's never forget the remarkable fortitude it takes to survive an unimaginable situation and the courage one must have to take even a first step away from it. Survivors need our assistance. It takes strength to be a survivor. You can recognize survivors of abuse by their courage. When silence is so very inviting, they step forward and share their truth so others know that they are not alone. So again, you're not alone. Help is available. There's no judgment, no shame. Please reach out for help. We are all here for you. So thanks everybody for coming today. And with that, we're happy to take any questions.
Harry, you know, I'm a big animal lover, and there was an ordinance passed last year that talked about the inextricable link between domestic violence and animal abuse and encouraged cross-training between LMPD and LMAS to look for signs of both or either when they make a call at a home. Can you tell us the status of that plan and that training program and whether that's being implemented at this time?
Yeah, I'm familiar that the ordinance passed, I don't know.
Good afternoon. Let me first by saying that I stand here as a sister of a domestic violence victim. And I'm so glad that she grabbed her life. So with that, our recruits do receive that training, and we're happy to provide that because we must understand that every component of law enforcement must be to educate, and so we're able to do better. So yes, ma'am, that is implemented.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, well, we appreciate you covering all this, so to the TV stations, if you can keep amplifying this and encourage your news producers to run crawl lines over the next couple of weeks around this as well, that could really be helpful. Obviously, this increase is very alarming, it's unprecedented, so the more we can get out the word to people on how they can get help, you all can help save lives by doing this, so we appreciate you covering this here today. And for all of our leaders up here that worked so hard on this for all the years, thank you all for your dedication. This work will never be over, I suppose, but we've got a wonderful group of people working on it, so I really appreciate y'all. Thank you very much.
We're still live, you guys. Just hang on a second. I'm rolling up my tripod here because I want to talk to that LMPD person a little bit more about the link. It's important. Hey, how you doing?
It's further follow-up.
I'm still live, yes.
And I'm sure I just want to let you know, and we can chat after.
Okay.
But my name's Erin White. I'm the head of special victims unit at the county unit. It's very nice to see you.
Would you like to say this live? Because I'm just trying to educate people about this.
Well, I just wanted to make sure, in direct response to your question, that we also take this connection very seriously. We actually
Do
have
it live for me.
Sure.
You're going to be fabulous. Erin, all right, just wanted to make sure it was okay with Erin if I went live. But talk to me a little bit about Special Victims Unit and your connection with the link, animal abuse and domestic violence.
At the Jefferson County Attorney's Office, under the direction of Michael Connell, we do take domestic violence very seriously, but additionally, we do see the link between animal abuse and domestic violence, and as such, we now have a dedicated prosecutor within our dedicated domestic violence special victims unit who handles the animal abuse cases, where there's a clear link between that violence towards the animals and family violence. And so we are trying to help build the understanding and battle the violence in families from both angles. So I just wanted to let you know.
Beautiful. Thank you for filling me in on that, and I do want to talk to you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
What is the officer's name who spoke? Do you know?
Detective Farmer or
The little short lady.
oh, I am.
I'm gonna go talk to her for just a quick second.
Do you know?
Hang on, y'all. Hey, Judge Karam, how you doing? Can I say one quick second while we're still live? Just talk a little bit about that link training, because this is something that's of interest a lot to people who love animals and people who are dealing with domestic violence, because we know it's an inextricable link. If you kick your dog, you're going to beat your wife. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. Just talk about that just a little bit, if you would. Perfect. You can just hold on to it. You're good.
Well, what we want to know, and we want to make sure that our police recruits are understanding the link between how we treat our animals and what may be actually also too occurring within that home. And with that, doing a little bit more of a better assessment when we arrive on the scene. But again, education is so key for them to understand what to look for, and then bringing in our additional resources to provide that assistance. So again, everything works together, and we just want to make sure we stay on that great path of saving some lives and preventing more crime from happening.
And by the way, guys, this is Assistant Chief Jackie Gwen Villarreal, right?
That's right.
I'm Tara Bassett. Nice to meet you, ma'am. Appreciate you. Thank you for speaking on that. It's really important to
You're
us.
so welcome.
Okay, you guys have a good day. Wait. Don't go.